Okay, if you're looking to start a podcast as soon as possible, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, you might want to listen to these 5 things. Hey there, my name's Tony. I'm a podcaster and content creator, and today I'm going to briefly share with you how you can start your own video podcast at home for less than $1,000. So if you don't know already, there's a lot of great benefits to starting a podcast, whether you want to just share your thoughts, maybe some knowledge that you've had, or even just want to connect with an audience in a different way. But the YouTube rabbit hole might be a little bit dangerous and even misleading because you don't need a lot of skill or even money to get things going. In fact, some of the most popular podcasts in the world started with barely spending any money, but the substance of their content is what blew up the podcast to make them so successful like it is today. So what do you have to do to get started? Well, number one is plan your podcast. So here's just a few things to kind of get your juices flowing. Define your podcast's niche and the target audience. How are you going to do that? Well, what is the show about? Is it health and wellness, pop culture, true crime? You need to figure out that first. Get some inspiration maybe from some other podcasts, and that's going to help you create content that resonates with the listener and figure out what's working. Next up, choose a podcast name that actually reflects the content. Make sure it's catchy, short, and to the point. This is going to make it a lot easier for the people to find your podcast and remember the show. Create an engaging podcast logo or channel art that's going to represent your brand and attract those potential listeners. You can do this with things like Photoshop or even Canva. And if you want a step-by-step guide, I lay that out in my podcaster's handbook, which I'll link that below, along with a bunch of other info to kind of help get your podcast up and going. Next up, equipment and software. Now remember, we're trying to get this thing under $1,000. Now I will say that if you're going to go cheap on something, do not go cheap on the microphone. I'm going to give you a couple options, but investing in a good microphone and headphones is going to be crucial to creating high quality audio that is going to attract more people to listen and even watch your show. They're not going to settle for some bullshit sound. So do not go cheap on the microphone. Now, here's going to be your most affordable option. We probably already have it, is a smartphone or a laptop. I've recorded a lot of podcasts on my iPhone in particular, and you don't even need fancy equipment. You can use GarageBand or the voice memo app to actually record the audio. Now, when it comes to microphone, again, this will be the bare minimum, but I would recommend a Samsung Q2U, and you can actually get an entire kit that comes with a tripod and an XLR cord for about $60 on Amazon. Pair that with the Zoom H6, which is about $250. This is great because you can actually have up to 4 microphones hooked up via XLR cord. You record everything to a micro SD card, and then you will put that in your laptop or editing software to mix that up. Now, when it comes to headphones, again, you want the quality headphones, and you want to make sure that you're hearing the audio that the listener's going to hear. So I recommend the Audio Technica, which runs you about $50, or you could do the One Audio. But if you want the big boys, which I recommend, you could do the Shure headphones, which is about $94. Now, next up, how are you going to edit these podcasts? For vertical clips, I would recommend editing, maybe using something like Opus Clips. But for your long form podcast, you're going to want to get something like Premiere Pro, Final Cut, Descript. If you want something simple, you can even download something like CapCut, which is good for mobile and desktop. So this entire setup that we just mentioned, which is just your smartphone or laptop, the Samsung Q2U, the Zoom H6, a nice pair of headphones. All in all, you're looking at about $410 to $500. And this doesn't include your editing software, but at the end of the day, you can get the job done with what we just talked about. Now, if you want to go the more expensive route, for mics, there's a ton of other options. Personally, I'm using the Shure mics right now, like the MV7. You can actually plug it in via XLR like I have now into what's called a Rodecaster Pro 2, or you can just hook it up right to your laptop. So I would look into the Shure MV7 or the MV7X. Now, these Shures are unbelievable. You're going to be spending about $200 to $300. But if you like the sound of this, and a lot of the top podcasters on the planet use Shure microphones, there's a reason for it. Now, when it comes to cameras, again, you could still use your iPhone, as we mentioned before, which is a great affordable option. But if you want to spend a little extra dough that's going to get you close to that $1,000 mark, I would recommend going maybe with a Sony ZV-1F. Or right now, if you like this quality, I'm using the Canon M50. But the problem with that is you're going to have to buy some nice lenses. Right now, I'm using the Sigma 1.8. It's a pricey lens. That might put you over the $1,000 mark. So starting off, I would recommend just using your smartphone. Now, we mentioned an audio interface. You will need that if you're using an XLR cord. Now, this is great because you don't have to record into your laptop. you would record into this audio interface. If you want to spend a little bit more money, I have the Rodecaster Pro 2. I highly recommend that, especially if you're just getting started and you're wanting to make this a career, spending less than $1,000 total, but a bulk of it is going to be the Rodecaster Pro 2. Now that's about $640 on Amazon right now. I'm going to leave all these links in the description below. Now with everything we just talked about, you got the Rodecaster Pro 2, you got the headphones, you got the nice Shure MV7 or the MV7X, and then of course whatever editing software that you're going to use. That puts you right at about $1,000. Now that said, disclaimer here, don't plan on making any money from your podcast. I always tell people, look at this like working out. You're investing a lot of time, just like going to the gym. You're spending $40, $50 a month. You're not going to see any results right away. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of effort on your part. You got to stay consistent with it. But again, if you want to do this and you want to do it the right way, these are the steps I would take to get your podcast up and going. Congratulations. You now have all the tools to start your podcast at home for less than $1,000. And remember, the most important step is to take action and to create this podcast. Do not get overwhelmed with how much information is out there. Press record, get it out to the masses, and through time, through repetition, through consistency, you will grow your podcast. But if there's anything that I did not answer in this video, I try to make it quick. Expect more videos about podcasting and how to grow your podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you want to hear more about that. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy podcasting, friends.